The Menendez brothers.
They're trying to kill my dad.
In their own words.
I didn't come to prison healed. I came to prison dealing with the traumatic wounds of my past, the tragic crimes that resulted that I committed. We're very hopeful, but this time counts, and so we've done what we can with the time that we have. You never know how long you'll be blessed to be on the earth.
After serving 35 years for murdering their parents.
I was picked on, bullied violently. I was told Lyle got assaulted and got his jaw broken.
They're at the doorstep of freedom.
I did about 18 years with the Menendez brothers. I love them. I love them. They're going to do great. They don't belong there.
I think they are two of the most skilled and accomplished liars I've ever met in my entire life.
I don't know that there's anybody who believes that either one of these gentlemen is a danger to the community.
If somebody is challenging what they want to do, they take them out if they had to. They could do it again.
I'm striving to be a good person, and I'm striving to be a better person every day, and I want to be a person that my family can be proud of, for certain. I want my wife to be proud of me, and my extended family to be proud of me, and my brother to be proud of me.
Are you hopeful for the hearing?
That's a very new concept for us, this idea of hope for freedom.
Prepaid call from
Lyle Menendez. Hope for the future is really kind of a new thing for us, I think. I think Eric would probably agree with that. It's not something that we spend a lot of time on. I didn't come to prison healed. I came to prison dealing with the traumatic wounds of my past. The tragic crimes that resulted that I committed. I grew up in an affluent home. I was a spoiled brat. I had deep insecurity issues and tried to hide those issues, and I was taught that you do it through the best clothes or the best car or whatever of those things that we now know is completely dysfunctional and frankly just a sign of internal pain. I look back and I'm so ashamed and embarrassed about even the little things that I did in life, and I'm not sure anyone looks back on their teenage years and is really fully proud of themselves. I'm not that person. But who I've evolved into, who I've seen Lyle evolve into, I'm beginning to like myself and be proud of myself and find it okay to like myself.
they're trying to kill my dad.
Pardon me? What? Who?
The bodies of Jose Menendez and his wife, Kitty, were found late Sunday night in the library of their posh Beverly Hills mansion.
Police arrested Lyle at the family mansion yesterday. Younger brother Eric's reportedly returning from an overseas trip to surrender.
What do you believe was the originating cause of you and your brother ultimately winding up shooting your parents?
Me telling.
You telling what?
Me telling Lyle that,
You telling Lyle what?
my dad had been molesting me.
And what did you do after you reloaded?
I ran around and saw my mom.
Where did you shoot her?
And I switched over and I shot her close.
But this murder was unlawful, unjustified, and wholly premeditated, and that it was accomplished through a conspiracy into which Lyle Menendez entered with his brother, and that but for a few mistakes they made, this was almost the perfect murder.
There were no TV cameras in court when Eric and Lyle Menendez finally heard 12 citizens render judgment.
He's guilty on all counts with special circumstances.
A judge in Los Angeles today imposed the sentence recommended by the jury, life without the possibility of parole.
I directed the Board of Parole Hearings to do what we call a risk assessment investigation into their applications specifically for commutation. The question for the board is a rather simple one. Do Eric and Lyle Menendez, do they pose a current, what we call unreasonable risk to public safety?
Governor Newsom has taken the reins in the Menendez case. He has asked the parole board to do a review. And the Menendez brothers are going to go before the parole board June 13th, and the parole board then makes a recommendation, sends it to the governor. He can let him out.
One other person, though, that will be there at that parole board hearing, L.A. County DA Nathan Hochman, who has been very vocal about the fact he does not think they should get out.
The way that the murders actually happened was instructive to understand the deceit and the planning that went into it. There was over 12 shotgun blasts that occurred that night. One of the shotgun blasts was to Jose Menendez through the back of his head. After he was dead, there were shotgun blasts to each one of his knees.
They do not meet the standards for rehabilitation.
If there was ever an example of rehabilitation over the course of 35 years, it would be Eric and Lyle's Exhibits A and B. Mark Garrigus, Eric and Lyle Menendez's lawyer.
What is the change in them that warrants that kind of evaluation that they've been fully rehabilitated?
The amount of insight, the complexity, the introspection, the dealing with it, the thought process, the 360-degree evaluation of where they are, where they've been, and where they're going to be is incredible.
Tremendous amount of mail. That connection with the public and with others who have maybe experienced similar trauma in their childhood or at some point in their life, very motivating, very inspiring. And so a lot of what Eric and I have done is along those lines of working with other victims or working with victims in here.
What they did to the victims, their parents, was horrible. My name is Thomas Lenahan. I'm a former detective from Beverly Hills Police Department, and I was the detective that was assigned to the Menendez murder cases. This obviously is the worst, most heinous murder case that I've had, because it's unbelievable what somebody could do to two human beings, particularly when you're your mother and father. It was all for money. And there's nothing that they could offer society. I would not trust them to be on the outside at all, to be involved with anything, because they're very money motivated.
Eric and Lyle should be released because they have expressed remorse repeatedly for what they have done. Robert Rand, I've covered the Menendez murder case for 35 and a half years. They have advised other young abuse survivors, do not do what we did. We made a terrible mistake. They have told people they are sorry for what they did. It's time to let them out. It's time to end this case.
Look at their mother. This is the woman who gave birth to them. This is what they did to their mother.
She had 10 wounds on her, that she was getting blasted all over that room. And when she finally got to where she was laying on the ground moaning, that's when they put that final blow into her.
they had their issues with Jose. Is Kitty the deal breaker for you?
Yeah, because I can understand why, but I know they did mention that the reason they killed her is because they knew that she couldn't continue without Jose. Well, I guess they wanted to play God. The whole reality is she's the person that's one step away from getting everything.
There are a lot of people who view what they did as unforgivable, particularly when it comes to Kitty.
We've got evidence, sworn testimony, and documentary evidence showing that she wasn't just there as an innocent bystander. She enforced what was called the hallway rule. If Jose was down the hall with either Eric or Lyle, she enforced the rule that nobody could go down the hall while they were in a room together.
Lyle and Eric have already paid a heavy price, discarded by a system that failed to recognize their pain. They have grown, they have changed, and they have become better men despite everything that they've been through. It's time to give them the opportunity to live the rest of their lives free from the shadow of their past.
You have now virtually every single living relative of both Kitty and Jose. Both sides, all the victims are all uniformly asking for the release.
I was picked on, bullied violently, and it was traumatic, and it was continual. And I was separated from Lyle. And I remember the day I was told Lyle just got assaulted and got his jaw broken, and I'm thinking, he's over there, I'm going through this over here, and at least we could protect each other maybe if we were together, but we were not even allowed to be together.
I think they are two of the most skilled and accomplished liars I've ever met in my entire life.
Tonight, in an extraordinary move, the Menendez brothers calling into a podcast. TMZ's Two Angry Men podcast with Harvey Levin and Mark Garagos, their defense attorney. Eric Menendez describing the terror behind bars.
I will say that I was picked on, bullied violently, and it was traumatic, and it was continual. And I was separated from Lyle, and I remember the day that I was told Lyle just got assaulted and got his jaw broken, and I'm thinking, he's over there, I'm going through this over here, and at least we could protect each other maybe if we were together, but we were not even allowed to be together.
We try to live for the day. We're very hopeful, but this time counts, and so we've done what we can with the time that we have, and you never know how long you'll be blessed to be on the earth, so we don't just sit around waiting for something. So then that keeps us motivated.
Nothing's changed. To me, they should not be in this position to be able to change what they're in there for. Think of all the other people that are in there right now with the same sense they have. What makes them any different than any of them? The notoriety is what makes the difference. Not because they're better people.
I've learned, as I've matured through the years, that our best moments are the ones that are not spoken about, and we just help somebody, or we help an animal, or we make somebody smile that's feeling down, that might have gone and harmed themselves if we weren't there. And those little moments happen in prison every single day because there's so much trauma and so much tragedy and so much depression and sadness.
I love them, and they're going to do great, and they will be successful. It's undeniable. They don't belong there. My name is Honore Brown, also known as X-Rated.
My heart, I'm so sincere, mama. When I heard this beat, I swear I leaked a tear, mama. As long as you okay, there's nothing I could ever fear, dear mama.
I did about 18 years with the Menendez brothers. They made it a mission to get me the hell out of there. They just believed in what I could do with my life, that I had a higher calling, that I was talented, a good person, and they just didn't want me there anymore as their little brother. They wanted me free, and they started doing everything they could to make sure that that occurred.
When you look at the kinds of work they have done, the number of people they have helped, when they had basically to the day 18 years of never expecting of getting on the outside, what other motivation can you ascribe to that other than they just decided they had made peace with it and they were going to do good work, and that's what they've done.
So many people have talked about this Ryan Murphy limited series on you and Eric. Do you have any opinion about it?
We were able to see quite a bit of it. I watched some of it through video chat that they allow us to do here, and obviously we've seen a million clips of it on TV and heard about a lot about it. So we feel like we've seen the entire thing. It really did actually move a lot of people to understand the childhood trauma that Eric and I suffered, and particularly the horrific stuff that Eric suffered.
He hated Eric, and it made me hate Eric too. And I saw how my dad treated him, and then I treated him the same way.
I feel in the end, a lot of people were educated about what can happen even in rich, in affluent homes behind walls and behind hedges, and manicured lawns. And so I think it opened a lot of people's eyes, and that's always a good thing.
I think they are two of the most skilled and accomplished liars I've ever met in my entire life, or not met, encountered. I'm Alan Abrahamson, and I'm a USC journalism professor who covered the Menendez trial for the Los Angeles Times. I think that the Menendezes are very capable of shape-shifting and being who people want them to be. And I think this is one of the grave dangers of this discussion, which people don't seem to pick up on.
Frankly, it's what's just given me hope, is that for people that are victims of severe childhood trauma, we live in the shadows, in this inner pain, in this silence where we have self-humiliation and self-condemnation and self-loathing. And so a lot of my freedom came from understanding that I'm actually someone that's capable of being loved, that I deserve love, and that I'm not that person.
You have 60 seconds remaining.
Inherently flawed and defective. And so understanding that is a kind of freedom. I'm striving to be a good person, and I'm striving to be a better person every day, and I want to be a person that my family can be proud of, for certain. I want my wife to be proud of me, and my extended family to be proud of me, and my brother to be proud of me. That's who I am today.
If somebody is challenging what they want to do, they take them out of bed. They could do it again. And these guys have been in prison long enough to know the ways of the world of being a prisoner in a state prison.
I'd say my neighbor's 17-year-old Labrador Retriever is more dangerous to society than Lyle and Eric Menendez.
Striving to be a good person, and I'm striving to be a better person every day, and I want to be a person that my family can be proud of, for certain. I want my wife to be proud of me, and my extended family to be proud of me, and my brother to be proud of me. So that's who I am today.
So the parole board and Governor Newsom are going to look at two factors in deciding whether the Menendez brothers should go free. Are they a danger to society if they get out, and are they rehabilitated?
They should get out of jail. They have failed to meet these requirements to show that they are no longer an unreasonable risk of danger to the community.
I'd say my neighbor's 17-year-old Labrador Retriever is more dangerous to society than Lyle and Eric Menendez. You know, they're just not the type of people that will harm anyone. I know it's a serious situation.
I don't know that there's anybody who believes that either one of these gentlemen is a danger to the community. Correctional officers, people who are there with them, have said they have no objection, not only no objection, think they should be released, and would welcome them into their to live in their neighborhood.
So this is going to sound harsh, but they targeted two very specific people, and those people are no longer here. So if they get out, would they really pose a danger to society?
If you look at what happened, first of all, it was planned. This is not something that spontaneously that they did. They did plan it, and the reason they planned it, things weren't going their way. If somebody is challenging what they want to do, they'd take them out if they had to. They could do it again. And these guys have been in prison long enough to know the ways of the world of being a prisoner in a state prison.
If they're released, do you think they pose a danger to society?
Yeah, I don't know, but I think there's a risk. I do not know. Do you want to have them over for a dinner party at your house, Harvey?
There are a number of factors that the board looks at in order to establish a recommendation for the governor as to whether or not the person should be given parole or not. My name is Jim Davis. I was formerly the chairperson for the Board of Parole Hearings in California. We're looking at what they have done in prison. What kinds of things have they done to rehabilitate themselves, how they've spent their time in prison, and then what their plans are. Basically, how do we make sure that people getting out of prison have really developed the skills that they need to so that we don't see recidivism.
We have the service dog program here, where the inmates teach service dogs to work with autistic children and with veterans. You have inmates who've been locked up for 20 years. It's been 20 years since they touched the dog. So the first moment I was able to see a dog wagging its tail, come up, lick your hand, it was an incredible moment. It's such an amazing therapeutic program. In the Green Space Project is just, you have to create a living environment for a prisoner that mirrors that rehabilitative purpose that you hope is inspiring him to change his life. And that can't be 30-foot gray walls, barbed wire, and concrete. It has to be green and inviting and have a sense of community. And we're proud of it.
I started a hospice program right here, the Life Care and Hospice, where we talk about growing older, the struggles that you have in dealing with disability and with life-limiting illnesses.
One of the most moving experiences I've had professionally in the last 40-some-odd years was watching Lyle graduate as the first UC Irvine Department of Corrections class, postgraduate class, at the prison.
Joseph Lyle Menendez.
They're completely different men, as would be expected. They lost a little bit of that arrogance that they had as kids being raised with money. They are very humble human beings. My name is Ana Maria Baralt. I am first cousin of Lyle and Eric Menendez and niece to Jose and Kitty Menendez. They have taken incredible steps in order to better themselves. They have educated themselves. They have proven that they are rehabilitated, and I think that they would be a great service to society.
Since they've been behind prison walls, they started a hospice program, suicide prevention program, green space program. They're working to rehabilitate other inmates. They got college degrees. They say they are fundamentally different people from the young men they were when they murdered their parents. What do you say to that?
As far as I'm concerned, it's all a fluff. You ever heard of the term con? That's a con.
What do you say?
That they want to get out. So they're gonna come on, they're gonna care for people, and all that kind of stuff. They're not gonna care for anybody. They want to get out of prison to try and have some sort of a life, because I think in their minds they think that they're entitled to this, because they've never had anybody in their life to tell them that they're not entitled to whatever they want. And if they don't want it, they're going to take it. The parents are a good example. They wanted what they wanted, and they took it from them.
I think they've been rehabilitated for some time. We should just examine the fact that while Lyle and Eric were helping other people prepare to go to board, they had no hope of ever attending a board themselves, and didn't really care to have discussions about the potential for freedom for themselves. So the selflessness involved in that is something that I think is indicative of their rehabilitation. They weren't doing it to benefit from any type of release for themselves.
It wasn't like there was a carrot being dangled in front of them for their whole lives saying, okay, if you do these 10 steps, you're going to get out. That was never a possibility. That was never on the table. They did it anyway. And that really shows a strength of character.
They have done several things that would be beneficial for them. Those things that they have accomplished, if they've been consistent in their time in prison, would work very, very favorably for them to receive a recommendation for parole.
Were you feeling sorry for yourself at this time?
Partly.
Were you feeling sorry for anything else?
Yeah, I was feeling very bad about killing my parents.
I don't think there's anybody who would argue that this was not a heinous crime. Right. And Eric and Lyle Menendez actually sign on to that. So given what they did, if they are rehabilitated and if they don't pose a danger to society, is it possible that the crime itself is so heinous that rehabilitation and safety just doesn't matter, doesn't measure up?
No, there's no such thing as never. The purpose of the hearing is to weigh everything that's there and say, yes, it was a heinous crime, but the person that was convicted of that is now a different person from what they were when they came in, and understands the nature, and can we release them back into society and have them have a successful parole.
What about Kitty Menendez? What about her? What did she do to deserve to be murdered so brutally? For 35 years, Harvey, I have had the image of her autopsy picture in my head. It's not a pretty picture.
Are you hopeful for the hearing?
My brother and I are cautiously hopeful, and we're in prayer with our family, and we're hopeful, and we're just trying not to go a little crazy in the interim. It's a very new concept for us, this idea of hope for freedom. We mostly just focus on the day.
So there is a hearing set for mid-April where a judge is going to decide whether to re-sentence the Menendez brothers, essentially eliminating the life without parole and giving them a life sentence where they could get parole. Then it would just simply go to the parole board and they would decide. But the thing is, the governor has already sent this to the parole board. So to me, at least, it seems like the whole resentencing now is pointless. It seems like this whole resentencing hearing is now irrelevant. Correct me if I'm wrong.
You're wrong. One of the options is he recalls the sentence, gives them a lesser included, which is a manslaughter, and releases them immediately. That could happen. That is what we're going to urge the judge to do.
Seeing so many people show up for Eric and Lyle, for truth, for justice, it means everything to us. So what do we do now? We keep fighting. We make sure that the world knows who Eric and Lyle are now. Thank you.
Their lawyer, Mark Garrigus, is going to ask the judge to actually change the conviction from murder to manslaughter. How would you react if that happened?
I don't really think that will happen. But again, anything can happen. And my request here to you, to your listeners, to your viewers, is that people focus on the facts and on the law. And ask, what about Kitty Menendez? What about her? What did she do to deserve to be murdered so brutally? Why? For 35 years, Harvey, I have had the image of her autopsy picture in my head. It's not a pretty picture.
It's a very new concept for us, this idea of hope for freedom. We mostly just focus on the day, on the present, on what we can do to sort of feel good about that day. For Eric and I, we've been incarcerated 35 years, and we've sort of developed a peace and a patience that, might not make much sense to someone who's free.
I had to somehow journey through that dark place of prison and try to figure out my traumas. Very, very difficult for me. A lot of starts and stops, and frankly, it was very difficult. When I began to really work on myself and realize that I'm not flawed, that I'm not defective, that there isn't something inherently wrong with me, then light began to open up, really, and I began to love myself again.
Abuse, like my brother touched on it, it expands, it requires being in the shadows of society. Once you bring a spotlight on it, the bullying and the trauma tends to find healing or find recourse.
What it is that I want to do in terms of my day-to-day life is much of what I'm doing in here. I want to be an advocate for people that are suffering in silence. I don't want to live in a world where people are hidden in the silence of their shame anymore. And there should be no reason that the victims of such tremendous childhood trauma are trapped in that shame and that silence that I was trapped in for decades.
Little brother grew up pretty well, huh?
What specifically would you like to do if you get out? What are your goals?
Well, my first goal is to reconnect with a family and be with family. I have a wife that stood by me for 25 years, and she deserves me home and my extended family. So, that's the first thing I want to do is try to bring about a lot of healing in our family through just me being home and sitting down and hugging and spending time with the people that I love. What it is that I want to do in terms of my day-to-day life is much of what I'm doing in here. I want to be an advocate for people that are suffering in silence. I don't want to live in a world where people are hidden in the silence of their shame anymore. And there should be no reason that the victims of such tremendous childhood trauma are trapped in that shame and that silence that I was trapped in for decades.
Little brother grew up pretty well, huh?
He clearly has a purpose if he gets out. What's yours?
We have pretty much a shared purpose, in terms of the victims community for decades. It's something that we've been involved with, and a lot of our joy, a lot of our grief has come from that community. So we have a phrase we call speaking shame, and it's helping people find their voice in their trauma, and we think that there's a hunger for that in the country. We would love to be part of that and heal in that way.
I was always an advocate for them to be at least hopeful or believe that there was potential for them to come home, and they just said, man, we're focused. I believe very much so that they should be free and that they're going to do phenomenally well. They are going to be an asset to the community.
They're both highly intelligent. They are both interested in devoting their lives, if they get released, to helping other people. And I believe that they will be an asset to whatever community they settle in, and that they really will try to help other people.
To sit there and have them go out in society and walk among us and try and get a job and try and do stuff, I would never want that to happen, because I know that you couldn't trust them to do anything. This all goes back to being spoiled. Spoiled kids. Their entire life they've been spoiled. They've been coddled and they've always got what they want. And this is just something they want. They want to get out of prison.
I expect that they're going to do great things. I expect that they're going to continue their work. They're both very passionate about advocating for survivors of sexual abuse, for survivors of childhood abuse, for changing the legal system and the public perception around trauma and the effects of trauma. And I can't wait to see what they do with their lives. Truly.
You know, there have been so many great acting families. You know, the Redgraves, the Barrymores, the Menendez, the Fairbanks, the Reagan.
Hi, folks. Want to help out the Menendez brothers? There they go.
I was the first person to testify in front of a national audience about male sexual abuse. I received a lot of ridicule in the 90s about it, but also a lot of support and a lot of victims reaching out, appreciating that, and finding their voice through mine. So that sort of inspired us to keep doing that.
There are people who have been in prison for 48 years. I have a roommate that's one of them, and that does not need to be in prison anymore. There are people that the system is failing, and I want to help people that the system is failing. So Lyle and I aren't talking about leaving prison should we be able to get out and not looking back. Our lives will be spent in working with the prison and doing the work that we're doing in here, out there.
They murdered their parents with a shotgun. It was all planned, and then they lied and lied and lied and tried to cover up. Put them in the same cell with Sirhan and hang all three of them.
I think that if you're abused from any type of age, it kind of gives you that like fair trade-off to like murder the person who abused you. Do we like kind of agree?
Up at the website to see how you feel about things, and here are the results. Menendez brothers should go free. Absolutely, they've served enough time. No way they murdered their parents. I'm really interested in this. Pretty close.
Hell no. They murdered their parents with a shotgun. It was all planned, and then they lied and lied and lied and tried to cover up. Put them in the same cell with Sirhan and hang all three of them.
Yeah, they're in their 50s right now. People are stupid in their 20s. I don't know anybody in their 20s who actually knows who the hell they are, okay? So you end up doing stupid things. I did stupid things when I was in my 20s, too. Never killed anybody, but the bottom line is by the time you're in the 50s and you've had 35 years in jail, I don't really think that there's that much of a threat to society.
I don't think they should be released because maybe we need to, maybe retrial, do the trial again, and then see if there's new information, there's justification to release them. But just to release them like that, I'm not comfortable.
I think that if you're abused from any type of age, it kind of gives you that like fair trade-off to like murder the person who abused you. Do we like kind of agree? I just think it's like fair game. It's like whoever like messes with you and hurts you physically, emotionally, etc. Like let's.
Even though like they were abused when they were younger, that anyone who kills their parents, anyone who has those ideas, are not psychologically or mentally okay, that there's something wrong with them and that they shouldn't be released. It's like murdering. I think even like murdering your own parent is worse than murdering a random person on the street because you're so close to them and you know them so well that like if they murder the person that they're closest to, like who knows what they'll do to some random person like on the street.
Maybe if we were in their shoes, we might think about killing the person or doing something to them if they, you know, sexually or physically abused us. I think it's hard because if you put yourself in that situation, a lot of us would think about murder.
Are you hopeful for the hearing?
My brother and I are cautiously hopeful, and we're in prayer with our family, and we're hopeful, and we're just trying not to go a little crazy in the interim.